I need you to really stop and think about the incredible journey we've all been on with this sprawling cinematic universe. For well over a decade now, we've sat in dark theaters and watched gods, monsters, and heroes absolutely clash on screen. We've spent countless hours dissecting those vague post-credit scenes, right? Pausing grainy leaked trailer footage frame by painstaking frame and theorizing endlessly about what's coming next. But here's the thing. Sometimes the most massive, absolutely world-shattering revelations, they aren't hidden away in those fleeting, heavily guarded little clips. No, sometimes they are staring us right in the face, completely out in the open, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to actually sit down and connect the geometric dots. Well, I've noticed a pattern. I've uncovered a very deliberate, meticulously crafted, and honestly terrifying visual warning about Avengers: Secret Wars. And let me tell you, once you see this cinematic blueprint laid out, you are never ever going to look at these characters or the marketing campaigns surrounding them the same way again.
It's a deeply chilling, absolutely heartbreaking thought, isn't it? Will Loki, the god of mischief, the guy who has painstakingly transformed right before our eyes from our most beloved chaotic villain into the solitary, tragic guardian of the timelines, will he be forced to sacrifice himself to actually save the multiverse? I want you to truly let that question sink in for a moment. Think about the immense, crushing emotional weight of what losing Loki would actually mean right now, after everything he's endured, after literally learning to hold the physical branches of the Yggdrasil tree together with his bare hands, sitting there in complete and utter isolation at the end of time. Could his ultimate destiny, the final chapter of his story, be a fatal sacrifice?
Well, the answer to that dark, lingering question might actually already be confirmed, and it's sitting right there in the official concept art poster for Avengers Doomsday. Now, when this artwork first dropped, millions of people looked at it. You probably looked at it. People admired the incredible spectacle. They shared it all over social media. They hyped up the upcoming crossover event, and then they just completely moved on. But I looked closer. There is a terrifying little detail in this official concept art that almost everyone completely missed, purely because they were so distracted by the sheer overwhelming scale of the image itself. It's this incredibly subtle visual detail that, in my eyes, explicitly spells out a deeply tragic end for our absolute favorite Asgardian.
Section 1. Decoding the Doomsday Poster.
Okay, let's dive in and do some serious cinematic detective work together here. To fully understand this warning, we really have to understand how these massive cinematic stories are constructed from the ground up, specifically from a marketing and visual design perspective. You see, the studio, they don't just throw characters onto a page randomly. It's not just a copy and paste job. Graphic designers and directors literally sit in rooms plotting subconscious cues. They use intense visual storytelling and precise character placement to secretly foreshadow major narratives, basically to prepare audiences for grief without them even realizing it. In these monumental, incredibly dense ensemble posters, absolutely nothing is accidental. Where a hero stands, who they're placed next to, the symmetry of the leading lines, and just how much space they occupy, all of it dictates their ultimate fate in the saga. It's a visual language. It's a highly sophisticated code designed to communicate directly with the subconscious mind of the viewer. Let's break down this specific visual code step by step, taking our time to really grasp the psychology behind this design. I want you to visualize the geometric layout of this poster in your mind's eye. Imagine it creating a massive triangle. First, you have the absolute apex, the very top of the image, which is historically always reserved for the looming, overarching threat. Second, you have the structural pillars of the story, those classic heroes firmly flanking the left and right sides to anchor the image and guide your eyes inward. And third, right in the exact middle, the focal point where those leading lines converge, you have the sacrificial hero standing dead center. Now look closely at how this exact geometry applies directly to the Doomsday poster. At the very top, casting a massive, overwhelming shadow over the entire ensemble of heroes, we have the main villain, Dr. Doom. This placement immediately establishes the astronomical universe-ending stakes of the story. Doom isn't just another character standing on this poster. He's depicted as a force of nature, a metallic god whose presence literally hangs over the heads of every single hero in the multiverse. His placement at the apex fundamentally alters the stakes, signaling to the audience right away that this is an extinction-level event. And an event like that, it's going to require an absolutely unthinkable price to stop. Moving down from that overwhelming shadowy threat at the apex, we look to the sides. The poster is perfectly flanked by Steve Rogers on the right and Reed Richards on the left.
These two characters act as the unwavering, steadfast anchors of the image. You have the ultimate moral compass and absolute leadership of the old guard in Steve, paired up with the supreme intellect and tactical problem-solving mind of the future in Reed. They are the structural pillars that literally hold the visual weight of the entire image together. By framing the core conflict perfectly on the edges, they create this sort of visual tunnel, essentially, trapping whatever is in the middle and drawing your eyes directly inward. So, notice the geometry at play here. When your eyes are pulled inward, away from those flanking heroes, trapped in that visual tunnel, who is standing dead center? Caught right in the absolute middle of this geometric crosshair is Loki. Just take a moment to really picture how isolated he looks in that composition, despite actually being surrounded by allies. He isn't off to the side, he isn't blending into the background scenery to fill space. No, he is placed directly in the crosshairs of destiny, holding the absolute center point of the entire artwork. The trap is sprung.
Section 2. The Infinity War Parallel. Now, we have to shift our narrative focus back in time for a minute to truly understand the extreme danger that Loki is currently in. I want you to try and remember another massive, era-defining cinematic event where we saw this exact same visual pattern used to devastating effect. I'm going to let that question just hang in the air for a second. For all the hardcore movie lovers out there, think back to the absolute frenzy of the marketing cycle for the climax of the Infinity Saga. Where have we seen a massive villain at the top, two iconic pillar-like leaders on the sides, and one specific, complex hero trapped dead center in the artwork? That's right, the official Avengers Infinity War poster. Let's methodically mirror the exact same three-step layout we just identified and paint a vivid picture of that iconic, unforgettable image. Number 1, Thanos at the apex, his massive, grimacing purple face looming menacingly over the entire universe. Number 2, flanked by Nomad Steve Rogers with his rugged beard on one side and a battle-worn, eye-patch-wearing Thor on the other, acting as the structural pillars. And number 3, standing absolutely dead center, the focal point of the entire war with his arms spread wide open, Iron Man. And guys, this is the realization that changes absolutely everything. Look at the blocking. Tony Stark was standing exactly where Loki stands right now. It's the identical blocking, the identical geometry, the identical trap. The visual symmetry across these two sagas is absolutely flawless. Loki has quite literally inherited Iron Man's exact visual positioning in the grand tapestry of this saga's marketing and conceptual art. Section 3. Tony Stark's ultimate sacrifice. Let's take a solemn pause here to just reflect on the legacy of the Infinity Saga. Because we all know that these layouts, they're not just for aesthetics. They aren't just there to look cool. They are incredibly deliberate narrative roadmaps. The tragic payoff of that specific poster placement for Infinity War rippled through cinematic history. We all know what happened to Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame. Think about the snap. Think about that devastating, unforgettable I am Iron Man moment. That central placement on the Infinity War poster wasn't just highlighting his importance to the overall plot. It was a dark omen. It was a visual prophecy promising that Tony was the one in the crosshairs, the one who would ultimately have to lay down on the wire so the rest of the universe could survive. So looking at the evidence, we can pretty confidently solidify this theory into a hard cinematic rule. Blockbuster filmmaking, especially in franchises of this completely unprecedented scale, requires the studios to leave these little breadcrumbs so that a beloved character's death feels inevitable and deeply earned, rather than just feeling like a cheap shock tactic for the audience. In these massive culminating crossover events, the center position on the primary ensemble art is the undeniable mark of the sacrificial hero. It's literally the visual equivalent of painting a glowing red bullseye on their chest. The studio explicitly uses this dead center spot to mark the hero who is ultimately destined to trade their life for the universe. Section 4. Will Loki die next? This brings our entire analysis fully back to the present day, right to the bleeding edge of the multiverse saga. We've decoded the visual language, we've seen the undeniable historical precedent. Now, we have to deeply connect Tony Stark's completed, heartbreaking arc to Loki's impending fate. Think about the sheer, incredible emotional burden Loki currently carries. His evolution as a character is staggeringly similar to Tony Stark's when you really look at it. Both characters were, originally, entirely driven by their own massive egos. Tony went from being a selfish merchant of death to a man who sacrificed absolutely everything out of pure selflessness. Loki? He's gone from a selfish, arrogant prince demanding a throne just to rule others, to a lonely, broken god physically chained to a throne he never truly wanted, keeping reality alive in total isolation. The fate of the multiverse literally rests on his shoulders right now. And remember, Secret Wars isn't just another big battle in a ruined city. It is the total catastrophic collision of universes. It's an event built entirely on the concept of incursions, where entire realities just wipe each other out of existence. To reset or save everything from complete, utter annihilation is going to demand a sacrifice of unimaginable magnitude. And the visual evidence we have just broken down together points to a singular, absolutely devastating conclusion. Like Tony, Loki must pay the ultimate price. He isn't just going to casually participate in Secret Wars fighting alongside the other heroes. The geometry of the narrative heavily suggests he is going to make the exact same endgame play that Iron Man did.
If this holds true, and I truly believe it does, it would be a deeply tragic, yet perfectly poetic cinematic parallel. In the world of screenwriting, mirroring a franchise's greatest hero with its first major villain is basically the absolute ultimate form of narrative closure. It is genuinely heartbreaking to imagine losing Loki after he has finally, painstakingly found his glorious purpose. But narratively, it's beautiful. For the God of Mischief, a character who started as the very first massive world-ending threat the Avengers ever faced together in New York, to perfectly mirror Earth's greatest defender and give his life to save them all, that is flawless, full-circle storytelling right there. I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought to ponder as we march toward these massive upcoming films. We've looked at the blueprints. We have meticulously analyzed the historical proof of exactly how this visual language operates. We've seen the undeniable parallels in their character arcs, shifting from utter toxic selfishness to absolute universe-saving selflessness. The trap is set right there, dead center in the artwork once again. Will the studio truly repeat its most heartbreaking narrative trick and demand the ultimate sacrifice from Loki in Secret Wars? Think deeply about the evidence we've unpacked in this breakdown today, and let that question really shape how you view everything coming next.